I sort of like these retreats to do more formal. It's formal in the sense that it's on a traditional aspect of Zen training, in this case, koans. And I'm going to talk on the second koan of the Blue Cliff Record, which is called "The Ultimate Path is Without Difficulty." And the Blue, as those of you who are studying koans, and will be perhaps, the Blue Cliff Record is an advanced collection. By the time that you are studying the Blue Cliff Record, what comes after is different but not more advanced. The Blue Cliff Record is a real hard one, and it's very literary. It helps to have an idea of what the Chinese sense of humor is, or was at this time, and even phrases. And whereas in early koans, when you present one answer. In these, you often present 3 to 5 different points in each thing, and they're mostly verbal encounters with many people. Now, nevertheless, they're really difficult in a way, but they're beautiful. They represent a real stopping place for Zen students. Like, this is where a lot of them kind of bite the dust with records. Just memorizing them, some of them are a page long, and it's tedious. The Blue Cliff Record has a very strange history. It was originally compiled, I think, in the 8th century, and then it had so much poetry and so much beautiful Chinese allusions in it that somebody felt that it took away from the study of Zen and burned it. And it didn't exist for a few hundred years. And then later in the 12th century, when Dogen, the big figure in the Seto school, went to China to study, somebody had found a copy, and on the last night when he went back to Japan, gave it to him and lent it to him. And he spent all night copying it and brought it back to Japan. And that's how we have it now. In 1978, this was and before that, it was a mythical thing. Nobody had ever, nobody even know what one koan was like in English. It hadn't been translated. And nobody, it was like this mythical thing, how I could put it, like the iron palm killing technique and the touch of death. Nobody knew it was real even. At that time, a group of young, very enthusiastic people were in the Eastern Languages department at Harvard. One of them was Tom Cleary and his brother, whose name I forget, and also there at that time was Richard Baker, who became the successor to Suzuki Roshi, and Robert Thurman, the Buddhist scholar. They were all one crowd. I met the crowd, and my girlfriend at that time, Diane, previous boyfriend was Tom Cleary, who translated this. And he had arrived at Zen Center of Los Angeles, which is all in the itch. And I think Maizumi Roshi had sort of put him on stipend or something. And the introduction is by Maizumi Roshi, and he did this mythical thing at that time. And I was lucky enough, because I was living with Tom's girlfriend, to get the copies of this as they came out sent directly to us, and before it was on the stands. And it was just like this amazing event. And so I really, feel connected to it, and later I had to do it. This particular koan, the second one, is about Joshu Jushin. And he is a very famous teacher, known, like some teachers were known for using a stick or a shout to demonstrate the point. Joshu was noted for his ability with words. And they said he had lips and mouth zen, that his mouth sparkled when he spoke. And he was an unusual character. He had, I remember hearing about this, he went to study with his teacher Nansen, who was a very famous teacher, and the thing that made Joshu remarkable was that either he was the most driven and fastidious or stupidest of all times, but we don't think he was the stupidest, because he set a record. He studied with his teacher Nansen for 40 years. So that by the time that he taught, he wasn't as young as a lot of the teachers were, and then he started to go on a pilgrimage and wound up in China, near the town of Joshu, which is what he was named after, and the mountain range. That was common in those days, that you named a teacher for the mountain. I think his name was Jushin before that. Now, kind of interesting, just in this kind of stupid way, is I always loved this story, and I wondered what a person would be like that studied for 40 years before they began to teach. And then when I began to teach, and I looked back and realized I'd started studying at the Gurdjieff Institute at 17, and it was 40 years that I studied before I began to teach. Now, not with one teacher, but still with many teachers, but it was 40 years. I started once before, and then I stopped, but then after 15 years of the Gurdjieff, but then I did the other 25%. So now I know exactly what somebody who studies for 40 years is like. And what it is, really, is that if you like to learn, there's no end. And you never feel like you know enough. And you should always feel that. There is really no end. And you'll never know enough. And there's so much that you can't know. But certainly a teacher like him, who studied for 40 years, what he has to say is quite mature and interesting. So I wanted to share this koan with you. Blue Cliff Record is divided, koans, into 3 parts, which is a pointer, the actual case, and then a poem. And all of this is going to be perhaps extremely confusing. So I'm going to try to make it make sense, and we can have questions. Let me start with the case. Joshu gets up teaching the assembly and says, "The ultimate path is without difficulty. Just avoid picking and choosing." Now he's referring to a famous poem by the third patriarch in which this is said. He's quoting. And it was a very commonly used quote by teachers, saying the way, the ultimate path, or the truth, is not so hard, just don't pick and choose. Now that term, pick and choose, is being used in a very particular way. It means when somebody asks Joshu what is the way in another koan, he says east, west, north, south. In other words, everything is the way. And that's the way he means not picking and choosing. When you realize that that your mind extends everywhere and includes everything, that is the way. When you pick and choose, you say, I am this and not that. See, and that's how I started this morning. We call that stupid, for lack of a better term. I am an American, and you, although you live in America, are not.